Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Happiness Quest. My name is Jess Dutel from the Office of Community Impact at Plymouth State University.
And I'm Dr. Maria Sanders, a philosophy professor at Plymouth State University and CEO of Philosophy for Life. And today we have a very special guest, Nicholas Sevigney, a local artist and an associate professor of ceramics at Plymouth State University. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
We're so excited for this
we
experience.
see you brought stuff.
We've got materials.
So we can make some things if we'd like. I had enough coffee this morning, so I had to bring a little bit of that. But,
So
a
we're
real little bit. That's a
We're ready
real
to
little
go.
bit of coffee.
So what are we going to make?
That is a good question. What would you like to make?
I would like to make a pinch pot.
Okay.
Because I actually learned how to do this last.
Oh
You're
my.
impressed, right? That I knew
I'm
this
so impressed
terminology?
that you have something. I was going to say, I just want to play with clay.
We co-taught a
something?
course last spring,
Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long already.
and I'm convinced that the reason that Maria really wanted to do it was so she could make some things in ceramics.
This is entirely
So,
why I wanted to. But it
that's
was a
what I
great
thought.
class. We combined
Thank
food
you.
ethics with table manners. And table manners is a ceramics course. And so the students were making like their bowls and plates and all the table utensils while they learned about the impact that food has on our lives. And then we rounded out the semester serving a meal where they used all of the things they
get
had
to
made.
use
That's
they made.
wonderful.
And
Yeah.
so it really adds a different element to when we think about the impact food has, meals, and the connections community-wise that food and meals bring, to any situation really.
Do a little research in the history of ceramics and get that sense. And there was a great connection. It was the first time though, so it was a small class. It was a challenge, but
Yeah, looking
it was
forward
a
to
good
offering it
group.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So Nick, how did you get into ceramics? Was this something as a kid you were playing with clay, or
Were you
did
a
it come out
Play-Doh
later?
kid?
I was actually trying to think. There's a social media hashtag called Clay Siblings, and people are posting up their stories for their first times working with clay. And I was trying to remember when was my first time working with clay, and I remember being really little and taking a class at a community center and making a little island with like all these little animals on it, and just thinking like, cool, I can make these little objects that kind of look like things. So that was kind of the first, but I did it in high school, and I really liked working with it, but I had a great high school teacher who told me, you're really good at that, so you should work with something else now. I'm like, but I'm good at that. He said, yep, you will always be good at that. So I stretched and did other stuff in art.
That's a valuable lesson though, and unfortunately all too often we don't hear that, especially when we're
Yep.
young.
Yeah.
That the influential people in our lives tend to promote the things we are good at naturally.
Yep.
And I've often wondered what it would look like if instead we complement the things children are naturally good at, but really focus on the things that they're not naturally
Yep.
showing those abilities, so they develop the skills. There has to be a more well-rounded
to
individual.
learn how to adapt.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
Carol Dweck wrote the book Mindset, and she talks about the difference between having a fixed mindset and thinking that, I'm either born good at something or I'm not, or a growth mindset, and thinking that even though I wasn't born with this special gift and I'm not necessarily great yet at making pottery like the two of you, because I have a ball, but I can practice and I can develop that skill and I can
Yep.
grow that skill. And so I think it's important what you're saying, not only to emphasize someone's strengths, but also say, but you could try something new, and the magic happens outside of our comfort zone, right?
Exactly. Well, and getting past, again, that perfectionism we've talked about
Yes.
so often on
Yep.
the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have to be perfect. When you sit
Okay, I
beside the
don't need
potter
a perfect
making a
ball.
pinch
No.
pot, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay, okay.
So, and we're old hats at this now. So, Jess, basically what you're going to do is just take that
Yeah, I see
thumb
what you're doing.
and just push it in,
Yep.
but don't push it all the way through.
Got it.
And then you just kind of slowly pinch your way around the exterior. But it is I'm teaching the wheel throwing class this semester, and I have one student who's like, I'm not good at 3D. I'm just really bad at this. And I always insist it's not, you can't have that. You have to have a growth mindset. You're
Yeah.
going to figure this out, it's just like math, and I'm really bad at math, and I just had to plug my way through it.
Yeah, I can relate.
You know?
Well, it's really thinking about it as if it's all on a continuum, and we're really not good or bad at anything. It's just where are we at on that continuum.
Yep.
And how we label ourselves, right? And sometimes our inner dialogue is a result of what we're told
Yep.
as children or as adults. My mind goes to my second grade teacher who probably was, had all the good intentions, but ended up telling me, well, Jessica, you're just not good at math. So I took that on, internalized it,
Yep.
and always thought that why would I try, because obviously I'm not good
Right,
at it.
I'm just not good at it.
Yeah,
Yep.
until I was a first-year student at Plymouth State in the fall of 1999. I had to take finite math, and I was so worried about it. I called home on the verge of tears, and my dad had asked me, why are you so fearful of this math class? And I said, well, because in second grade, I was told. And so he helped me realize that I could shed that label if I wasn't comfortable with it, and really adopt a growth mindset. As it turns out, I'm not horrible at math. I don't love it still because I never gained that appreciation, but I'm not as horrible at math as I thought I was.
I have a similar situation in art, nonetheless. My older brother, who's less than a year older than me, is excellent at realism and drawing, and he could pretty much work in a lot of the different fine art mediums, but the style was always very realistic. And mine, less so. And so as we went through art classes, and it was about 5th grade, I distinctly remember the art teacher constantly comparing us. And of course, he won that comparison every time if we were trying to create not necessarily a creative product, but something that realistically matched what we started with. And so I internalized, very similar to what you were saying, Jazz, I internalized, well, I'm just not good at art.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was in college, and one thing I used to do a lot of, not so much doodling, but cartooning. I liked doing animation and cartooning. And I was approached by several of the local businesses while I was in college to paint their windows. Because they're like, you're such a great artist. And it was an odd thing to hear, because internally that was not my self-talk.
And you're probably thinking, do you know my brother?
That is exactly what I
must
said.
be confusing.
I'm like, you must, you should
Yeah.
contact my brother. And it was so funny because I was worried about showing my art to my brother. And when I did, he was amazed. He's like, you can cartoon? He goes, I could never do that. And it really kind of reset my internal thinking, because here this one person who really didn't even know my brother that well had created my self-talk for years.
Yeah.
And so it's important that we're aware of that.
And sometimes with art, like in other aspects of life, we worry so much about the product, right? The destination, instead of really just being in the process and experiencing the journey. And I say that because I already feel myself wondering, is this going to turn out okay? But it's really not about the end result yet, right? It's about just being here and expressing, yourself through the medium.
Well, when we think about the happiness research, it tends to be all about the process. Because when we think about how art and engaging in various making, whether it's ceramics or other types of making, what's reducing stress and pulling us into the present, what we're doing right now, is the process.
Yes.
It's really not the product.
Right.
And the value judgments and all that tend to come in the product, not necessarily the process.
Well, and I think that's one of the barriers for the arts right now. I think there's a limited, kind of a limited knowledge as to, there are lots of venues for arts. Our culture has reinforced in a lot of ways that, realism is good. You should create something that is beautiful and that is pleasing, and in fact, nothing could be further from the truth for arts. But it's hard to, have that conversation with people when, are you doing realistic? Well, that doesn't look like a pirate that you just drew. Maybe that wasn't my goal. But it's a challenge talking with people, and I try and talk with art students about that. I don't think art has really done a very good job of emphasizing to people that there are different ability levels, there are different ways of conveying ideas, because a lot of times that's really what art is about. and it's not always beautiful. So always consider that. When I was in undergraduate school, the best suggestions that I had were from my friends who were in marketing and business and classes like that, because they had a very narrow understanding of what they were looking at. But it was a path that I didn't look at. I was immersed in what I was doing in art. So it was always great getting those outside opinions.
Well, and I wonder even more so nowadays with all of our technological capabilities, is realism even the goal that it was years ago? When you think about art, the skill that is increasingly lacking in our society and because of that, in more and more demand, is creativity, being able,
and imagination,
right, to create something that is not merely mimicking or mirroring what's in reality. But at the push of a button now, I can copy things, and I can take photos, and I can take videos, and so to be able to bring something truly new and different to that realistic situation seems to be where the future would be at in a time period like now with all the technology.
Absolutely. I have a cousin who's an artist in New York, and when we visited him and his family years and years ago, they were living in a studio apartment at the time in Brooklyn, and he had used driftwood that he found along the shoreline to make himself a little art studio in the corner of their studio apartment. And I went in expecting to see, beautiful portraits or landscapes, because he's the kind of person that could draw a picture of me and it would look like a photo. And instead, we saw all kinds of abstract art. And at first I thought, wait, what are you doing? You could draw a photo. You could draw a picture of me that looks like a photo. And he said, well, this is the work that I'm called to right now, and it's creative. And it was all over the walls and also the floor. So I was tiptoeing around trying not to, mess up his artwork. And he said, what are you doing? Why are you walking like that? So, well, I don't want to step on your artwork. And he said, no, it's on the floor because I want people to come and leave a piece of themselves. And I said, really? Because I may have gum on the bottom of my shoe. I was just walking through the city. But it really helped me think through, different ways of expressing and different ways of creating. And just because you have a certain skill set, it doesn't mean that if that's not speaking to you and that's not the kind of work that makes your heart sing, then why would you do it just because you have that skill?
Right.
But, so open my mind.
So Nick, have you seen, with all of the various methods now that make it so easy to mass produce, ceramic cups, ceramic bowls, pots. You don't typically see people making pinch pots in their spare time anymore. How has that impacted the artist that, like yourself, that is an actual potter or works with ceramics? I know there's an additional cost to actually purchasing something that's been handmade.
Right. Well, I mean, that's where, what Jess is drinking out of right now is a really nicely functional. It's got a little silicone top on it, but that's a ceramic object.
Did you see the tree on the front?
That someone designed. Very nice tree.
Thank you. Yellow, my favorite color.
And those are all made with decals
Sure.
and things like that. This was thrown in a wheel and then altered, had a little handle put on it, hand glazed. The market, and a lot of times if you're working in a capacity where you want to make work and that's your livelihood, the difference in price between these two objects is prohibitive in that I have to get at least $25 to $30 if I want to make a living off of it, and I have to figure out my hours and my materials and so forth. Most of the things we get, if you go to Walmart, you can buy a set of cups for $25. So there's a functional aspect to it, but people relate in a lot of ways to stuff that's handmade. So what's happening, instead of things looking very produced, people who are making pots that have little dents in them, and the handle might not fit quite right, and it looks like something maybe that's from 1,000 years ago. So that's becoming really popular.
Well, there's a story to it, right? The people relate to that.
And that's the thing.
Well, and the individuality, the uniqueness.
Yep.
Absolutely.
The people that I know that are out in the field making pots and trying to make a living, if you can get a venue where you're actually making the work while people are in the area, they immediately associate you, the person, with the object that you've made, and you have a much higher likelihood of making sales at that point. So, so there is kind of a want for the handmade, and the DIY movement, the makers movement is really influencing that. People want to know how to make things. And I always think of that show that I haven't seen it a lot, but I've seen it several times. It's called How It's Made. And they basically talk about building a bridge and you know how the car was created and mass produced. So
It's like getting to peek behind the curtain.
Yes.
it is,
Yes.
right? And people are fascinated by that, especially if you're kind of in the workaday world where 9 to 5 you go in, you have one thing that you do, and whether it's an office job or janitorial crew, you go in, you do the job. There isn't a whole lot of creativity in there. You want to see how things are made.
Sure. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I was a big fan of Mr. Rogers as a child, and he would always
Yes.
show those clips
That was
of
great.
inside factories and
Yep.
show children how things were made, and it's always so interesting.
So thinking about the market nowadays, with these changes and the ease of mass production and that, do you find, not only as an artist, but even as a teacher of future artists, is it moving in a direction where to make a living at art you have to become more of a generalist, or is it still, is there enough of a market out there to specialize?
There are a lot of different opinions, and I think that's where I love art. I am dedicated to making art, but art hasn't done a great job of marketing itself. There are still the camps of you should be very specific. Like, I know a lot about ceramics, but I also refer to myself with my students as a disciplinary dinosaur. Like, I can tell you anything you need to know about ceramics. In the real world, that has some ability to do some things. I can tell you how to mix a glaze, I can tell you how to, but very rarely are you going to come to me and say, you know, I really could use a nice black glaze to go over this form.
Not the typical black glaze.
Right.
I want the
I want it
special.
metallic in some ways. But where artists always shine is we're great problem solvers. We are great at critical thinking. A lot of the things that the job market is out there promoting, saying we really need people who can work in a group. Well, if you were in my class, we would eventually take the objects we're making, put them on a table, and talk about them. I would give you a review, like, oh, the lip's a little thick on that, but I love how
but
it's
I
smooth.
love the
you know?
lip.
Right? So, and that's where. But
Yeah.
why do you love it so that it's so thick?
I just like the way it looks.
It looks solid.
It looks solid
yes.
and durable,
Yeah,
right? Maybe
yeah.
that's the reason why.
Maybe.
So that's where we have these conversations about objects, because whenever you're a maker of an object, whether it's a painting or anything, you know, there's some investment there. You have an intent in why you were making that object. And then someone comes in and can potentially go, well, I don't either see what you're trying to convey, or I don't like the treatment of the surface. And you have to learn to deal with that and take that feedback and have that conversation. So what we do in art is we're constantly presenting our work. We're constantly talking with each other. And I don't think that art as a discipline has done a great job of saying that. Because I think that the overall is like, well, you want to, this is something you love doing. So it's about passion, about being dedicated to a specific field. But really it's not just that. It's the interactions that are important.
Well, and this is one of the areas, as I think, from an academic standpoint, why I've become so interested, and Nick and I have increasingly been working closer and closer with our curriculums, because in philosophy, we've actually done a very good job sharing the message of how we assist with critical thinking and build like ethical boundary. But what we haven't done great is that the philosopher is also a very creative thinker. And quite often, critical thinking and creative thinking are used interchangeably, and they're very different things. There's some creativity to critical thinking and some critical thinking to creativity, but they're very different. And so that's where both of us have seen that our students can really value the philosophy students by being just around and watching how the artists move through the world and picking up some of that creative flow. And for the artists to gain a different level of the content to their bringing to their art through this philosophical bandering and reasoning.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite part of the course, actually,
Yeah.
is we had the students talking a lot. They did critiques of their artwork back and forth. They did these kind of Friday night fights, which were a lot of fun. They were based off of, I'm losing the comedian's name right now.
Colbert.
Colbert,
Stephen
yeah.
Colbert.
Stephen Colbert does these Friday night fights. And so we did kind of an offshoot of that, where the students might be, like one student was Gumby and another student's Mickey Mouse, but they have to critique, either an issue of food in the world, tie it to a piece of pottery they've made.
Yeah.
So the critical thinking skills have to be there to where they can put their arguments together, but they also have to be very creative on a lot of different levels, not just with the product that they were making.
Right.
Yeah.
So it really ended up giving a lot of opportunities to students to develop the skills that employers are looking for
Absolutely.
nowadays.
Yep.
So I've heard Maria talk before about her painting and how for her it's leisure time
Oh, it
because
really
she
is.
will lose all track of time while she's painting and get sunburned and all of it.
And it's definitely not about the product.
Yes.
Yep.
And you are clearly passionate about art, and yet it's also your work, right? You're getting
Yes.
paid to teach,
Yeah. I have to
art
convey-
techniques. Yeah.
I have to convey that to students.
So how do you keep up the love for it?
It's a challenge. I mean, and it's not to say that I've lost any of that passion for it, but during the semesters, it's difficult to work in the studio because you're giving a lot of that time to students. And when you take something that you're passionate about and you make it into a job, that's where I always, whenever you hear that, you should take something you're passionate about and make it into your profession.
And
I
then
kinda
you'll never
go,
work. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, but it can be a challenge. It becomes a job, and I know a lot of people who went into the field of ceramics and wanted to make pots and work in their community, and the luster wears off after a while
Right.
because you end up making work that is motivated by the market. People like
Sure.
blue glaze, you're going to be working with blue glaze.
Even if you're into the black.
Even
Yeah.
if you're in the metallic black.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a challenge, but it's replenishing at the same time because you see those. I have two students who are in a class right now that they were in my 3D class, and now they're in a clay and composition class that was created. And there were 3 or 4 students in that class, and they're coming into the ceramic studio, but 2 or 3 of them were like, hey, I can't wait to take ceramics next semester because now I'll have the credits to do it. And I'm like, yeah awesome. So so it's nice to have that, but it is a challenge to keep that energy up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
students
my
are
mom's a
excited.
photographer, and over the years, people have always asked her, "Why don't you do this for your work?" Because it's a hobby of hers.
Right.
And she says, "I don't know if I'll love it as much if I have to show up at a
Right.
wedding." She loves taking photos at a wedding when she's invited, but if she was getting paid, she says it would be very stressful to get the right shot, the
Yep.
exact thing, and so for her, it's a release, it's a hobby, it's leisure.
Well, and when I think about leisure, one real distinction is you're not focused on that product. It's all process.
Correct.
And so as soon as there's a particular product in mind because someone's paying for it,
Yeah.
it does yank you out of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's no longer simply leisure.
It's not something that I enjoy doing. It's something that I have to do in
Yeah.
order to make
I've made
Right.
my
commitments.
payments
Right.
for materials that I've bought.
Sure.
So
Well, that's beautiful, Maria.
There's a concept here. We'll see if
Yeah.
it actually comes to fruition, which is a question I had for you, Nick, as an artist. When you start a piece, did you know you were going to make a mug, or does it develop as you're in process?
I had an idea of what I was going to do.
Because I really didn't when I started.
No, I didn't either. I just
Right.
had a ball. I had
Right.
no
It's
idea
like, oh,
where
we
we
have
were
time.
And
headed.
go from there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
that's where I love the idea of muscle memory, and being able to, as we talk, I can just kind of do this is almost like second nature in a lot of ways. So it's comforting, and this is a very simple form. So it was kind of easy to move out and create. If I were doing something that was more in line of the work that I make, which tends to be a little more sculptural, it's one of those, I can't really talk with you all at that point. I have to
Concentrate on what you're doing.
concentrate on what I'm doing, and that's where having a studio life is great, but it's also a challenge because you have to fit it in there. And
Yeah.
one of the things that students will often say is and it's usually when they're in trouble, when something's been late or they're not working, and they're like, I just wasn't feeling it. And I just go, you know what? I
wasn't
not feeling
moved.
that. Right. It's like, I'm not moved by this, it's like I asked you to make a pinch pot. Like there's no well, I wasn't feeling
Wasn't
it.
inspired.
I wasn't inspired. It's just like, welcome to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that grade probably won't be inspiring either.
Right. That's FYI. Could you hand me one of those little?
Sure.
These are my go-to tools. One of the things I love about ceramics is popsicle sticks and bamboo skewers are tools of the trade. You can buy all these fancy tools if you want, but you don't have to.
Well, and an interesting thing that I learned by teaching the class with you and working and really watching you work with the students in the ceramics was I really entered that class thinking, okay, there's some things you can do by hand, but if you really want the more realistic and well-balanced and symmetrical looks, you got to get on that wheel.
The
Right.
wheel.
Pottery
Yes.
wheel.
Yeah, we were talking about ghosts before you
Yes.
came on set today.
There's a rule in our in the studio at PSU that there is no ghosting.
Yeah.
No ghosting. There will never be ghosting on my behalf, but ghosting is not allowed in the studio. And for those out there in the world who don't know what ghosting is, it's I can't.
Watch the movie.
What's the movie though? I always
Ghost.
Ghost, right?
With
gosh.
Patrick Swayze.
Right, with Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
I always think the title is different, but there's a scene in there where Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore are throwing on the pottery wheel together.
Yes.
It's a
They
big-
were inspired.
Right.
They were in the
inspired.
moment.
Oh boy.
Living in the moment.
But
yeah,
it's
there
really
is
a
that.
misnomer that you need that pottery wheel, though.
Yes. Yep.
Because I was really amazed at the intricate work that could be done,
Yep.
just by hand and very symmetrical. With once you develop the skill level, you won't
Right.
see it with the things I'm creating right now. But
Yeah.
this is not a good
That
visualization.
wasn't meant to be
Right, but
symmetrical.
that's not the goal.
Yeah, your
Well, and
goal is
again,
not symmetry over there.
I think people, round and symmetrical. Our brains are wired. We like symmetry.
Yes.
Asymmetry is a little more challenging for us. So I think that's where that conversation of there are more people making pots and making vessels that aren't necessarily round or square, and that doesn't require using the potter's wheel. This can be a very low-tech method of hand building where you just do what I've done here, which is just bring in some clay, a couple of bamboo skewers, and you can still get something. There's my little round pot.
Very
beautiful.
nice.
The hand on it.
And I see that we're almost out of time.
So
So our takeaways for today.
Yeah, someone that would be interested, maybe outside of playing with some Play-Doh or clay as a child, haven't really touched it since.
Yep.
What would your recommendation be?
So there are several potters in the area. There's Ripple Pottery. There is Shanware Pottery. There's Artistic Roots downtown, and they have great pots in there made by people. Even though Jess's is made by a person, there's definitely a person involved in designing and
Questionable.
and sanding that down. There are potters around who would love to talk with people about how they make objects. There's the Community Clay Center out off of Tenny Mountain Highway. They offer all sorts of different classes. I think they have date nights, as well as kids classes, so you can go out there and take some classes. PSU, we've got a whole bunch of offerings from general education to upper level wheel throwing, but it tends to be cost prohibitive for people. But that's where, there are still a lot of organizations in the area that are more than willing to help people make things. So,
Well, and we can't underestimate the value nowadays of Googling it.
Yes.
There's
Sure.
so much
Yes.
available
Yes.
just at your fingertips.
Right.
Get some clay
Yep.
and put hands in clay.
well,
Absolutely.
and that was, I was sick at the beginning of the semester. We had travel problems, and then I was sick, and I was trying to figure out, because I had missed 2 classes of the wheel throwing, and I just Googled it, and I found some great videos to demonstrate how to work in the material, and so I had them all Google it. And I said, here's some videos to look at, but I'm going to be out sick, so you got to get started.
Yeah.
Because the process
right.
is all about
Yeah.
getting started and just working.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for joining
Yes,
us.
it's
Thank
been
you.
a
This has
pleasure.
Fun. This has been fun,
play
right?
clay.
It's been really
Making
fun.
things.
Yes.
This is always fun.
Thank
And
you
I
for coming
definitely
on
feel
the show.
happier than I did a half hour ago.
Oh,
Great.
yes.
So it
Yes.
has raised the level of
For
happiness.
sure.
Very nice.
Hey,
Good.
thank you for joining us.
What I made, Maria.
You did
Maybe-
really well. Look at my
Maybe I like
stacking
the
and-
durability look of it because I have a lot of young people in my house that break things.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. That will be a really good salt cellar. You can take salt and put it in there, and that's
Yeah.
that's what we usually do.
Cool.
Once it's fired, it'll be bisqued so that the salt doesn't get clumped up in there.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. It really looks like something that we dug up out of the earth about 15 minutes ago.
I know. Maria, that looks awesome. It looks.
Yeah.
That's, oh, and the water was all the way over
That
here.
was the thing I wanted to start demonstrating.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.